What's going on, Raider Nation? Welcome to another True Raider podcast. I wanted to come out to you guys with some quick breaking news. I couldn't get home for this one, man. I just had to record it in my car. But Mark Davis a report came out that he has given his blessing for Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce to move or to trade up for a QB in the draft as long as it makes sense, right? Bleacher Report put this out, Sanjay T put this out, and I think that there's some validity behind this. Now, what this looks like, I don't really know, right? It could be that, they have already had some talks and maybe come to some kind of agreement for a trade. And then the last thing that they needed was the blessing from Mark Davis in order to go ahead and move the draft capital in order to move up and get the quarterback that they want. So this could be that they're talking to the Patriots, Commanders, and maybe have Jayden Daniels in mind. And I think this is funny because this is only 2 days after the Instagram Live where Jayden Daniels and Malik Nabers were, talking, and, Malik Nabers was saying that Jayden might be partnering with his old homie, right? Which could be Antonio Pierce, could be Jack Jones. So, the thing about this is that it's not a new thing for owners to have to give their blessing in order for these kind of things to happen, right? Like when the Raiders moved on from Derek Carr, Mark Davis had to give his blessing for that. When the Eagles moved on from Carson Wentz, actually what the thing that happened with Carson Wentz was that they didn't want to pick up Carson Wentz. The owner kind of forced his hand on that, right? And they got Carson Wentz. They ended up moving on from him like a year later. And there's been several cases where, ownership has gotten involved in the blessing of this, right? Because they're the owner of the team. They're not just going to give the GM and the head coach free reign and be able to just do whatever decisions they want, because often, if those things don't agree, right? If the owner and the general manager and the head coach don't agree on what's going to happen, then you're going to have really just disorganization in your franchise, and that can lead to a lot of conflicts, resentment, and things just kind of falling apart, right? So all of these players need to be on the same page, right? You need the general manager and the head coach to agree, and then you need the owner to be in agreement with whatever decision that you're making at that time. And when I look at this, there was already a report that was broken by Mitchell Renz, right? And he didn't cite his source, but, these guys have been doing content creation for a while for the Raiders. They have inside sources, and so I trust that this was something that happened where the Raiders tried to move up with the Miami Dolphins and get a second first-round pick, right? And so I don't think that we'd be trying to do that unless we're really trying to make a move to move up and get a quarterback. The Vikings have talked about moving up to get a quarterback, and then they kind of backpedaled on it, but they have 2 first-round picks this year, right? Which, if we end up in some kind of bidding war, that's more valuable to have 2 picks this year than what future draft picks are going to be worth, right? Because the thing is, future draft picks, they don't really help a team right now, right? But besides that, you don't really know what those picks are going to be, right? You could trade for future picks, like how the Bears did, right? They traded with, the Panthers, and they ended up getting a huge score out of that trade, and they got the number 1 overall pick, right? So sometimes it can work out really good like that, and other times it can really work against you, for this to happen, because you trade for a future first round picks, and then let's say they trade with us for that, right? And then our team performs very well, we make a deep playoff run, and then that first round pick isn't a number 13 overall pick, it's more like a 20, 25, 30, right? And if you end up in that range, then all of a sudden it's not worth nearly as much, and it doesn't help the team right now, right? So if they want to be able to move up in this draft, if the Raiders want to be able to move up, we're going to have to be able to be competitive against the Vikings, right? And the Vikings have 2 first-round picks this year. So I'm really kind of excited to see what's going to kind of form from this, because we don't really know, right? That doesn't mean that we're going to move up. It doesn't mean that we're not going to move back, right? And what Mark Davis said is as long as it makes sense, right? And that means not just putting our team in detriment to move up and get some quarterback, right? But, we got to really look at what does detriment look like, because there's some people in Raider Nation that they don't want to move anything to get a quarterback. They just want to draft a right guard or, cornerback at 13 instead of trading up, right? And then other people are saying F them picks, let's give them 3 first rounders and a player and a second rounder or 2. Like, let's go out and get our quarterback, right? And I'm somewhere in the middle. I really want to see us move up, especially if it's for Jayden Daniels. Go and get him. He's going to be a great scheme fit. I really think he's going to play his heart out for AP, and I think that it's going to be worth it to move that draft compensation, because if we hit and he is our guy, we're not going to miss those picks at all, right? And if we miss, like 49ers missed with Trey Lance, and they lucked out and they had Brock Purdy, right? But we also have Gardner Minshew and AOC, right? So if we shoot our shot and we miss, that doesn't mean that we're just going to flop and it's going to, totally wreck our franchise, because the 49ers missed on Trey Lance and they still went, they went to the NFC Championship the year that he got injured. Then they moved on from him and then they went to the Super Bowl, right? They didn't win, but they still went. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please hit that like, please hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.